Today I want to talk about whether or not atheism is a religion.
Ugh, not this again. When are you dork nozzles gonna give up on this stupid idea? Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Meet Pastor Wagner, who's going to make the tired old argument that atheism is a religion. I really wish they'd give up on this idea. It wins them no points. I mean, seriously, what reason is there to make this argument? The only possible point I can see is, you're a religion too, so shut up, you hypocrites. Only that's not going to make their position any more valid, and it's certainly not going to stop anybody from pointing that out. I mean, think about it. Doesn't every religion claim to have the truth, and every other religion is wrong? So if atheism is a religion, which it's not, why would calling us one stop us from telling you that you're full of crap? So seriously, stop that. It makes you look silly at best, unutterably stupid and borderline bigoted at worst. And with that, I could probably end this video right here. What else need be said? But he does make some specific points, and what the hey, let's have a spot of fun pointing out the errors in his thinking.
Now there are some key points to religions which characterize most of them, which I'd like to go over in brief, and then we want to look at each of those and see if they fit the bill for atheism, see if atheism is indeed a religion.
Now, if you've been arguing atheism versus religion for any length of time, if you're not new to the scene, you know where he's going. Twisted definitions, calling things what they're not, and horribly biased comparisons to his own position. It'd be great if these arguments weren't so predictable, but even before I watched the video, I made predictions about what he was going to say, and hit it pretty much on the nose. I wish that meant I didn't have to keep refuting the same arguments over and over, but if they're going to keep making them unopposed, that gives the chance that they'll sway the undecided an unfair advantage.
So most religions have a belief in a higher power that is the reason for one's existence.
Which, right away, does not describe atheism. But of course he's going to try to make it sound like it does.
Most religions believe in things that cannot be observed and must be accepted by faith.
Once again, not atheism.
Most religions have a story of creation.
Atheism doesn't come with any stories at all.
Most religions have a moral law to which one must adhere.
Atheism doesn't have dogma of any kind.
Most religions are evangelistic, meaning they go out there and try to promote their religion and share it with other people and evangelize.
It's fair to say that a lot of atheists try to convince people that religion's claims are wrong, that people shouldn't be religious. However, unlike religions with dogma that insist they have to try to convert people, this is not something built into atheism.
And most of them assemble with those of like faith for fellowship.
Or, in the case of a lot of atheists, for self-defense. If you religious people didn't exist, or at least didn't go around making nuisances of yourselves, atheists would have no reason to gather. Or at least not related to religion anyway.
So let's look at atheism and see if atheism meets these criteria for a religion. First of all, belief in a higher power that is the reason for one's existence.
Oh, here it comes, the first unreasonable and unwarranted comparison to his own position.
Well, atheists believe that the universe is eternal, and therefore it is the reason for its own existence.
Okay, first of all, buddy, you don't get to tell atheists what we believe. We tell you what we believe. And newsflash, not every atheist believes the same thing any more than, say, a Methodist, a Baptist, or a Protestant all believe the same thing. It is not required for atheists to believe anything at all about the origin of the universe. Undecided is a valid position for an atheist to hold. All that's required is that we don't believe that your God, or anybody else's, is responsible, because that's what makes somebody an atheist, that the number of gods they believe in is 0.
So they can't admit that the universe is not eternal, because if they say that the universe is not eternal, then they have to say that the universe has a beginning. And if it has a beginning, that means it has a cause. And if it has a cause, that means it has something which caused it, which would be outside of the universe, which would be God. And of course, they can't admit that.
Are you actually trying to say that whatever the cause of the universe might be, it has to be called God? Even if it was some mindless quantum flux sparky tesseracty thingy that set off the Big Bang, that spark is God? Seriously? Because now we're down to dishonest word games. You know perfectly well that when an atheist says we don't believe in any gods, we're kind of talking about Zeus, or Thor, or Osiris, that kind of God. Or possibly the more pantheistic types of gods, the mindless forces that bind the universe together. This is not the religion you're looking for. If you want to call the origin of the universe God, then we're going to have to find a different way to express what atheism stands for, because it does not mean what you're trying to claim here.
So they have to say it always existed. That's what a lot of them will say.
First of all, I'd be hard-pressed to find an atheist who does say that. But second, only a lot of atheists say that. So what makes you think that it's necessarily part of atheism? And even if we don't all believe it, shouldn't there be some sort of dogma or holy text which makes the claim that we all say is the basis for our position? And don't go saying that the God delusion is our holy book and Richard Dawkins is our prophet. You'll just make yourself look stupid.
Atheists believe that the universe is the reason for their existence. What else could be the reason for their existence except the universe?
Again, kiddo, you don't get to tell us what we believe. We tell you what we believe. All that makes somebody an atheist is having no belief in any gods. Any hypotheses about our origin or the origin of the universe are extra and not part of atheism. Someone could believe that the origin of humanity is aliens seeding the earth with genetically engineered life forms, have no belief in any deities, and therefore be an atheist. Someone could believe that we're all simulations in a really complicated virtual reality universe, have no belief in any deities, and therefore be an atheist. Just watch. This is the part where he claims that the player or the person who wrote the software is God, despite being a mortal being sitting at a computer.
Hey, look, you guys are gonna make my user, Mr. Henderson, very angry. He's a full branch manager.
Great. Another religious nut.
You believe in the users?
Yeah, sure. If I don't have a user, then who wrote me?
Atheism requires no belief in the origin of the universe. It only requires an absence of belief that a deity is responsible.
Therefore, atheists have a God, namely the universe. The universe is their God.
And as I predicted, there's the unfair and unwarranted comparison to his own position. You can call the universe a god all you like, but that's not gonna make it one. And I sure do hope you realize that. 'Cause if you don't realize how full of crap that is, that probably puts your intelligence on the same level as room temperature. Celsius.
Think about it. The universe, in their mind, has all the characteristics of God, right? It's omnipresent. It's pretty much everywhere.
So why isn't it your God? You're describing characteristics it does have. Shouldn't that make it qualify for godhood in your mind? Assuming, of course, you're being honest about what attributes are necessary to qualify for godhood.
It's omnipotent.
What? What? The universe is omnipotent? Call me crazy if you like, but I'm pretty sure there are some powers the universe doesn't have.
It's huge, it's vast, it's extremely powerful. We can't even comprehend the ends of it.
And yet, that size is potentially knowable because the universe is empirical, it's physical, unlike religious claims of God.
And it's also eternal, right? It goes on forever, and it's always existed.
Well, there are claims made without proof. You do realize that not everybody thinks this. There is contention on these issues, right?
So therefore, it has all the characteristics of a god for them. It is their god.
I hope you see now just how unwarranted this comparison is. Tortured logic, twisted definitions, a desperate attempt at equating belief in a magical sky fairy with a scientifically observable place of existence.
How about the next one? Belief in things that cannot be observed and have to be accepted by faith. Now, atheists, of course, hate the idea of accepting something by faith. That is so anti-scientific.
Again with the telling us instead of us telling you. Stop that. And non-scientific? It's true that a lot of atheists care quite a bit for science, but what makes you think that's necessarily part of believing in no gods? You do realize there are religious scientists too, right?
But think about all the things that the atheists accept by faith. Many atheists believe in a multiverse which has never been observed, and for which there is no evidence.
Believe in? No, hypothesize. And again, not part of atheism. You might as well say many atheists enjoy playing tennis. Oh sure, playing tennis can be part of getting in shape, but is getting in shape necessarily the reason someone plays tennis? Is science necessarily the reason one does not believe in God?
It is a belief, it is a unfounded, faith-based belief. That's what you call faith-based atheism when you start believing in things like a multiverse.
Well, fortunately, it's a hypothesis being researched and not a faith-based belief.
Atheists believe in the doctrine of evolution.
Evolution is not a doctrine, you idiot. It's an empirical, objective, scientific theorem that can be proved through evidence. And again, evolution is not part of atheism. Not believing in biblical creation is, but that's it. Nothing about atheism requires accepting evolution. It's not a commandment. It's not atheist dogma.
None of these evolutions that supposedly happen have ever been observed. Nobody's ever witnessed stars evolving. Nobody's ever witnessed chemicals evolving or the periodic table elements and that evolving into each other.
Dude boy here doesn't even know what evolution is. I mean, seriously, the periodic table evolving? I mean, okay, the periodic table has changed, but the nature of what makes one element different from another has not. Only our understanding of them has. Evolution and change are not the same thing. Evolution is a very specific kind of change.
Nobody's ever witnessed biological evolution where one kind of animal has evolved into another kind.
Ugh. Not this bullshit about kinds again. The only people who talk about kinds are people who don't actually understand evolution in the first place. It's the same people who talk about macroevolution and microevolution as if they're not the same thing. Macro is just tons upon tons of micro heaped on top of itself over a large period of time.
And atheists believe that life came from non-life, which has never been observed.
You make it sound as if life is something special, as if it's not just matter and energy interacting in specific ways, as if death isn't just the structure of our bodies breaking. If you really think about it, life isn't a thing. Life is behavior, and matter doesn't need life to behave in certain ways. Oh, and also, even if life hasn't been, say, created in a lab, we're getting awfully darn close to it.
There's a thing in science.
Science? Wow. Air quotes for science.
You know, in science, which is called the law of biogenesis. It's actually called a law. This is such a firmly established principle. It's called a law.
You know, Pasteur never did establish that life cannot come from non-life. All he did was show that it's not happening every day, all the time. And if you look it up, the only people who are trumpeting the law of biogenesis as if it somehow disproved abiogenesis are creationist and apologist websites. Now, of course, Zippy the Wondermutt here is going to claim that atheists believe in abiogenesis and do so because we're atheists.
But atheists, because of their faith in their religion, believe that life came from non-life.
But it's pretty clear that we aren't the ones with a religious agenda, and we're being compared to his own terrible example. Incidentally, people are always asking me how I have the patience to deal with chowder monkeys like this all the time. But can you tell that I was a lot more cool and collected at the beginning of this video than I am now? This guy's starting to make me more than a little bit cranky. Just saying.
Atheists have a story of creation.
No, we don't. Atheism doesn't have dogma. What we don't have is your story of creation. Now, I could go through what he thinks atheists believe, but we've basically been down that road already with every other subject. So, let's move on.
How about a moral law to which one must adhere? Well, atheists, a lot of them, you would think that they would pride themselves in their immorality because they're just animals that have evolved and they can do whatever they want.
That's amorality, you idiot, not immorality. And why do you think we'd be proud of that? Yes, we're animals, we're biological beings, and that means we can hurt. And we don't like being hurt. We have morals out of mutual self-interest, no God required.
But a lot of them actually have a moral law that they preach to men that they must adhere to. They say that the moral law is to do what is helpful and to avoid what is harmful.
Like I said, mutual self-interest. You don't hurt me, I don't hurt you. We prosper, we feel better. What else is required?
That is their moral law.
You sure do like to throw that word law around. The only way what you're describing is a law is if we have the government enforcing it. Without that, all it is a really good idea that a lot of people agree with.
They say that we must respect men's opinions or men's decisions to live how they wish. Unless, of course, that decision would be to not bake a cake for a sodomite wedding or something like that.
Gee, preventing bigotry. What a fucking crime. See, you get to live your own life the way you wish, right up until that way starts affecting other people. Once that happens, some sort of compromise or judgment has to be reached, and those assholes who wouldn't bake the cake, they were the bad guys. They were the ones who said, we won't provide our consumer services to you because we don't like what you are. That's bigotry. That's prejudice. That's illegal. And you don't get an exemption just for being religious. Sorry, kiddo.
Evangelism. Atheists, believe it or not, are very evangelical. Some of them, anyway. Many of them.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess trying to convince people that your side is correct makes anything a religion. Someone telling you that their political party is the best? Religious. Someone explaining why one scientific theory makes far more sense than another? Religious. Someone persuading you that Star Wars is better than Star Trek, which it is. Religious. Yep. Espousing your point of view and trying to convince others that you're right? That's only ever done by religion.
And lastly, the last characteristic of religion would be assembling with those of like faith for fellowship. And many atheists are members of organizations and clubs which they regularly attend to fellowship with people of like faith.
Yeah, 'cause nobody has ever gotten together for strength in numbers. Nobody has ever felt like they're part of a minority and possibly under attack and gathered together for strength in numbers. That's never happened. No, the only reason to gather together is if you're religious. Atheists are one of the least trusted minorities in the entire United States, which I'd say gives us a pretty decent reason to gather together. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if religious people could just mind their own damn business, there'd be very little reason for atheists to get together in the first place.
I would say, based on all of these facts, that atheism is indeed a religion.
And I would say you're completely full of crap. Nearly everything you said was a straw man argument that misrepresented atheism rather badly. And like I said at the beginning, let's suppose you're right and atheism is a religion. So what? If you've managed to define it as one, what have you accomplished? What changes? And I'm spent. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. If you don't like what I'm saying, there's a good chance you're the reason I'm saying it.